Hi, welcome back to another TerranScapes video, and I lied last time when I said it might be a little while before I was back because I actually had a request from the customer to do a couple revisions on a couple of the pieces. One, sort of my fault, not really thinking about how a piece was going to use. Another was to add some details to the other piece. And also, I took the opportunity to add just a very, very small couple touches to the waterfall, and I had a couple questions from some viewers about the waterfall, so I thought I would give you another look at that and emphasize some of those small details. So let's take a look at the pieces and I'll show you what's different. So the first difference change was the crypt entrance, and the customer requested that I go in and add some more vegetation around the entrance, some vines, something like that, to give it the appearance that it's, a bit overgrown, a bit more, unkept. So what I did is I took some silfloor. This is like a fine ivy. It's actually, I think, for a smaller scale, so the leaves are very, very small, but I really like it, and I thought it might fit a little better with this piece, as the large scale ivy leaves I think would just be a little heavy on this kind of a small structure here. So I went with these and I just built them up along the sides here, draped them over the edge, creeped it around, hung a little bit off of a couple spots here to give it a little bit, and added some vegetation around the base. And one thing I should mention to the customer, of course, probably easier to show than it is to describe in an email, is that when you're inserting the door, you might be tempted to rest it against, all right, here we go. You'll see the stone in the back here, and you might be tempted to rest it against that edge when you go to close the door, and it could catch on that. So I just push it forward just till you feel it moving freely forward, and then press it from behind into place. And that way the bottom bracket here won't get caught on the stones and break it off. It's very simple, but just helps to show a little description. So there's the revised sort of catacombs entrance. And the second revision was for the Realm of the Ancients entrance. Now, I didn't realize, my error really, I should be a little more thorough, is that the Realm of the Ancients entrance goes to a whole Realm of the Ancients set for Dwarven Forge, and the pieces for that have a different flooring than the catacombs and the normal cavern flooring, which is sort of that fieldstone. The actual Realm of the Ancients pieces have a very ornate sort of radial mosaic tile for their flooring, but the hallway pieces, I'm presuming that lead to it, have a stone finish that is similar to this, where we have these large, broad, flat, sort of slate stone pieces. You get the sense that they're slate when you look at the front here, and you can see that there's, some lines here. And, I don't know, they've been piled up and grown over by this root. But in any case, what that meant is really that the fieldstone pieces I had done don't match this and are going to create a real discontinuity between the entrance and the internal pieces of the dungeon. So I said I'd offer to fix that. I'd rather it look right and work right. So what I did, and I'm going to see if I can give you the best look. Of course, this is the look that the table would offer. What I did is I actually tried for the first time some modeling with Super Sculpey Firm. And I did a test piece last night, tried it out, baked it, saw how it feels, felt like it had the durability to be useful in this kind of fashion, and then this morning rolled out a sheet, carved in tiles that match, and you'll see here, now if you go to the Dwarven Forge site, where the intersections in the hallways of these slate pieces are, there are these little tiny circles sort of marking the corners. They're 1-inch tiles matching that, so I cut these to 1 inch. Although, to be fair, you're not going to be able to fit a miniature in here because the entrance, just for perspective here, what I did is I cut the hole to match the entrance in shape, and this is a little low to fit a mini. Well, let's see if I got one here. Hold on. We got Tippy McLean here. Come here, Tippy. So let's see here. So you see, not really going to quite fit. So what I did is I cut that hole through, extended it slightly at the back, but still, oh, he does fit. Look at that. All right, oops, in frame. But you can't move miniatures through this, so you know it's just really for reference and matching and feel. But I put in a little slate lining along the bottom here, and basically what I did is I filled the floor. I kept the field stone in there in the interest of trying to save some labor to do the repair, and laid this on top. Now that means it lifted up this bottom just a little bit, about 1/8 of an inch. So, coming back around to the front, what I did then to make sure that this will match this piece more flushly, more fluidly, is I actually just put in some foliage here and crushed it down and used this as a lift. And actually, I'm not exactly sure why, but it didn't need really lifting on this side. It needed it on this side. And I extended the vegetation out in front a little bit to hide some of the lift in the back. And now, when you insert this, there's actually a little bit more of a foliage buffer around it. Oh, I'm having a little trouble because I'm behind the camera here. And when you press that, there we go, you press that into place, now it provides a pretty flush join between the two pieces. It's slightly, there's a very, very slight gap between them, but I mean it's pretty minuscule, and I'm really pleased with how that adaptation came out. Matching the paint for this was a little different because this has a little bit more browns in it, and then almost like a Deneb stone highlight brushed over it. So painted that to match that color scheme, and I think that came out pretty close. The texture is not an exact match. I tried to do some gradual texturing to this using some rocks and some sculpting tools, and it's not a perfect match, and that's really a limitation of my sculpting skills. This is the first time I've ever done a piece like this, and I went for as close as I could, and after painting it I see the texture isn't an exact match, but the colors are good, square size is right, general structure of the squares now matches, and so let's see here, there you go, that's a pretty good look. And so that gives you a look at how those came out. Put a few cracked stones in there, and overall was glad to have to redo this piece as it was my first attempt with Super Sculpey, and I can see myself going to that material for more unique sculpts in the future. And the last part to just do another quick look at is the waterfall, and there were 3 major things that people had raised, including somebody here in the shop, as items to possibly work on or improve or at least see. One was the initial gap over the lip and the side here, and I said I would try to show that. So you can see here it still does pour over this, and in retrospect I probably will try to minimize this either by having the the cliffside extend out a little bit to just sort of hide that, or by having this maybe filled in a little more or break. What I did, and I didn't mention this in the last video, I'm still kind of getting back into this whole video thing. What I did, especially in some areas like here where there was a large split, is I went back in with some plastic and reshaped that and recoated that and created some more fluting there. So that's how I covered some of the really big gaps that I thought were just a little bit too large, and but it doesn't quite work for these kinds of corner sections here, and I wanted the effect of a stream of water coming off, a sheet if you will, so I decided to leave it. I think it's acceptable, I like it. The second thing that people were asking about was, are the sides wet? And yes, they are. What I did is I went in with some gloss medium and painted this down. Now one of the things I noticed after I did that is that they weren't really quite dark enough. When stone gets wet, it darkens considerably. And I think in retrospect, maybe pre-shading the stone before adding the water effects might be a good way to go. But what I did, and you can see here, it is now darker a little bit, is I went in and mixed in a little bit of a black wash into the gloss and then applied that in a couple thin layers. I was afraid to go overboard, I didn't want to make it black, but I applied a couple layers to darken that up and to give it a little bit more of a wet appearance. I've had some thoughts on ways that I could maybe tackle that a little differently in the future, but I won't get into that now. I've spent probably too much time on this waterfall as it is, and some of it my own time, to be honest. So I think for the best waterfall I've ever done, it still achieves that, and we'll move on. Lastly was the sheeting action coming over the brakes here at the top. Now this was a topic of debate here in the shop with a friend quite a bit, and he was arguing that Waterfall should look a certain way, and we started looking at some videos online, and really what you can discover is that the way the water comes off the top of a waterfall can vary widely, and it depends, of course, on the initial topography of the underlying rock structure, as well as the speed and volume of the water. All of that affects whether it shears into droplets early on or comes off as a smooth sheet and shears as it falls into the droplets. So what I did to try to give it more of a flow over the top is I went back in with some gloss medium, and I just really painted these layers up and down a couple times to build that up a little bit, and I'm hoping that's going to come through in this perspective. And what else it does is it pushes a little bit of this foam back under the surface, and that really kind of mimics the way water looks a lot better, as there's often foam underneath the surface as it's roiling up, and that's something that doesn't really come through appropriately when you dry brush it. So what I did is I went over several times with over various spots with the gloss gel, but only bringing that down to about halfway in the falls and letting the dry brush remain on the top at the bottom, as it's going to appear brighter and a little bit more foamy looking. At least that's my intention, which mimics how the water is as it breaks up. You get less transparency and more opacity as you go towards the bottom of the falls. And I went into the rapids and I did that as well. Areas where it's a little bit more calm, if you will, I just glossed that up a little bit. And it may not show to the casual observer, but if somebody's really looking for it, I think you can see that it makes a significant improvement. And it's something that again, there's an area where I'll probably be exploring more improvements next time I do whitewater. But I felt like it just added a small touch to this to bring it up. And I felt like it was worth the small amount of time investment to just try to add that and see its effect. So there's a quick look at a few revisions on those pieces. Hopefully they look a little different to you, and of course I just want to give the customer another chance to take a look at them. Cat, hey, hey, hey! She's knocking the ghost that has broken off my mortise engine onto the floor. The mortise engine. Anyway, so get the customer another chance to take a look at that, and make sure that these alterations meet his expectations, and then we can get some photos of those and get them up on the site. When I do get those photos up, I'll put a link down below in the description. So I meant to keep this short. Seems like it's getting a little long, so I'll let it go. But I do have another water effect to come up in the very soon future that I'll be showing you after I do a little more problem solving and some work on it. So keep your eye on the channel for that, and I'll talk to you soon.